Hey everybody, welcome to Garrett's Games. My name is Doug.
My name's Shelley.
And we are a board game podcast and video series here, a newly formed video series where we talk about board games, family strategy board games. Every Sunday we drop an audio podcast where we talk about a couple of them and have interviews with designers and such like that. And here on this video series we usually talk about a single game that we may have covered on the previous podcast or maybe covering at some other point. And we also, of course, talk about Essen and other things like that. But before we get into that, remember, head down into the show notes and check out the list of the extensive list of games that no longer fit on our shelves, but belong on your table. And that helps support the podcast, get some great games on your table, and we get room to get some more. It's great. All right. You can also support the podcast directly by going to garrettsgames.com, going to patreon.com/garrettsgames. And we've got a game this week that is called Explorers of Navoria. Yes, this is by Meng, Chunlin for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 plus, 20 minutes per player. And it is a game of card drafting, a game of exploring paths, a game of set collection and resource collection with some interesting mechanisms. So let's talk a little bit about Explorers of Navoria. So, in Explorers of Navoria, you have a map of your hometown and the 3 different areas that will be explored by your explorers as they wander down paths in the desert, in the mountains, and in the forest. But you also then have the different people whom you're going to recruit that are the cards, okay? The interesting mechanism that is in here for the recruit phase involves this bag. Yes, in a 2-player game, you only use 2 of the tokens. Here's the token, so I've taken 1 of each out of the bag. But you, when you're recruiting, you are going to, if there's none available, draw 2. Let me try and draw 2 that are 2 different colors. I wouldn't be able to do that in the game. I'd have to choose. But draw 2 from the bag. And in this case, I get to choose to either take one of the 3 cards in the blue area or the 3 cards in the pink area. All right, the other token is going to go into the middle of the area. And now that's available so that on Shelley's turn or on subsequent turns, any that are available here, rather than drawing out of the bag, you can use that. You know what you're drawing. You know where you're going to draw from, and you can take a card from that particular area. All right. So there's going to be 2 cards from each area that are gone. At the end of the recruit phase, you're going to wind up. Let me just put them out here with tokens on the various things. So we're going to have these, and not all of them will be used. All right, so, you could wind up with something like this. I haven't gotten any greens. Okay, there we go. All right, and the other one would have been drawn out of the bag. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay, so maybe it's something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's probably not the case. We get to do 3 rounds. There we go. Okay, so they would have tokens that are over here.
And that would have meant that you would have taken one of these cards and put it into your area, and then you would be doing whatever that card indicated.
Exactly. We're going to talk about what those do in a minute. Yeah. The nice thing about by putting the tokens on here is, of course, one of the things you do in some games is you replenish the cards that once they're taken. But in this case, you don't. And by placing the tokens onto the different decks, it reminds you that you don't replace. These are the only 3 that would be over here. So these would have been taken. 1 would have been taken here, 2 here, 1, 1, 1, and so on. Okay?
Right.
Then we gather. That will be the second fourth of the turn. And then in reverse turn order, we would be taking these tokens off the card decks and determining and getting the resources that are listed here. Okay, so that could be getting resources. If I take this one, I could choose between these 3 things. If I took this one, I could choose between these 3 things. And once I chose it, that is no longer available. All right. After we do all of that, the third thing that happens is income. And by the way, it's on a nice little cheat sheet right here. Income. On some of the cards, you will see a C, and that means whenever you get to the C part of the turn, income, you are going to do that action, getting points, resources, etc., and so on. Okay, usually it's points. Okay, so income is points, and the blue and the pink ones give you income, and then you reset the board, and you are ready to go with the next turn, and you go over 3 rounds. Okay, so that is the way the game works as an overview. Now we've got these 5 different types of cards that you are drafting. All right, so and the cards also have little symbols at the top. So Shelley will talk a little bit about what those little symbols are, and also what this part of the board refers to.
So one of the things you're doing besides picking up these cards to get resources or other things is you are trying to get 5 of a specific symbol that's in the corners up here. So this is like the masks. You can see
human
up,
symbol,
you
right?
know, like the masks up here. So if you're the first person to get 5 of those, then you're going to put your marker for the mask on the symbol up here for the mask and put it at your top spot, which means at the end of the game, you're going to be getting 2 victory points for every blue and yellow card that you have in your display here. Now, Doug might also accomplish that, but then he would come in at the lesser value and get 1 point for each blue or yellow.
So Shelley, if she goes in first, would get 2 points per card. I would get 1 point per card if I am collecting that particular symbol.
Because you're going to get cards from all of these different areas within your tableau or your area that you're working on.
And it's nice, actually, the limitation of drawing 2 from the bag, right? And then you have to choose between those 2 colors, right? So let's go through these different types. So the pink ones, these are going to give you movement on with your little explorer along a particular track. So for example, everything on the left of a card is immediate action. So this is 2 steps on the desert action or the desert track, as well as a victory point. So if I had taken this card, I would get a victory point and I would move 1-2 steps on this little track. Okay, so the pink cards then do that. And then the other thing that they do is during income, they give you a point for every one of the flags, regardless of the 3 tracks that you've gone on, that you've at least attained or passed. So in this case, I've gone by 1. If I'd gotten here, I would get past 1 and on another. So for this card, I would get 2 points at the end or during income for each of the rounds if I got to at least that spot. Of course, these explorers reset to the beginning or other places. We'll talk about that in a minute. At the end of each round. So you got to keep working to move forward. The blue cards, notice, also give you income. This is immediately 2 points, and at income, this is another way to use those symbols. So there's a monster symbol, and this is for every monster card, and one of them is the beast card. So I would get a point for every one of these beasts that is on all of the cards that I'm going to be collecting beside my player board. All right.
So you might be trying to do things that work with this and that, and so you'll be putting this out too.
Yeah. This one, notice, doesn't give me anything as an immediate bonus, like the other one gave me 2 points, but it does give me a point for every, I think these are sprites or something like that. They look like aliens. Okay. The maroon cards or red cards, these are end game scoring. All right. The clock means end game. So at the end of the game, you're going to get a point for every hut that you've built. Oh, what huts? Oh, we'll get to that in just a second. Let's do that right now. We can talk about huts, because in the yellow, this is immediately get 2 victory points and build a hut from your forest area into the forest board. So that would mean the forest area on my player board. Let me move my player board to the middle. It's divided into 3 sections. Here's the forest. This is forest area over here. So this card says I'm going to build my first hut and put it on the 1 in forest. Why is that important? Well, remember we talked about things resetting. Okay, so say, Shelley had done really good on the forest track right here. Well, when we reset at the end of the round, I just have to go back to my nearest hut, Shelley would have to go all the way back to the beginning.
Not
all
cool,
right?
not cool.
So not as good in terms of round-to-round stuff. So building those huts is key because also, and where it is, this one would give me, for that hut that I built here, now at the end of the game, I'd be getting 2 points for every hut that I build on the forest track with this card. And of course, it's cumulative, so I could have more than one of those cards. Yeah. Finally, some of the cards, the yellows and so on, will give you resources. This green is the primary one who does that, which is 2 victory points. And then you can see a sword and an apple. Now, the way the resources work is, and I should have gotten the resources out, but the resources work by, you put them, there they are, you put them into the different ports. And when you get more than one on a turn, so for example, if I took this sword and apple, I get a sword, I get an apple, but I can't put them both in this spot, even though sword and apple would be great here because I need one of each of the 3 types, sword, gem, and apple, and then I get my reward from this spot. No, I have to put them in different spots. This one is one of each type. This is any 4, so, you know, I could have 3 apples and a sword there. This was 3 of a particular type. Okay, so maybe I'm like, okay, I'm going to put my sword here. I'm going to put my apple here because I only need 3 in each of those to achieve things, and we're all set, right? When you get the thing, so say on a subsequent turns, you know, I was able to get stuff going here, and I finally was able to get the 3 things. As soon as you get all of the 3 resources that a particular port needs, you score it. And that means, in this case, walk 1 step on the forest track, which is good, so forest benefits forest. Get a point for every green card you have collected. And then, depending upon how many of these huts you've removed and placed onto the board, you could get 2 more points, another point for every green card, so 2 points for every green card, and another 2 points, okay? So building these huts out can be really very beneficial, all right?
And then if you get to the end of these tracks, they also give you
major points. Yeah.
This one gives you 5, so you could activate that a couple times too.
Whereas the desert only gives you 1, and the mountains give you 3. All right, but still, that's pretty good. Yeah. The other thing that happens in income is that we look to see in a 2-player game who's only in first place on the track, and then it's that person gets 3 points. In a 3-player game, first and second place get 3 and then 2, and that's on all 3 tracks. In a 4-player game, 3, 2, 1 for the first, second, and third. You go about doing that. You at the end of the game, I should say, you know, now that we have a better idea of how you get resources, notice this is getting swords. Again, you have to put, if you get the 2 swords, in 2 different spots, and then walking on whichever path you want. So this is the second half of the game. After you've taken those cards, then you're putting these tokens on and choosing. The blue one gives you 6, 4, or 2 points.
But notice there's only 1 of them, so, I mean, whoever takes that's obviously going to get the most points, but
exactly.
No one else is going to even be able to do blue, so you really do need to think about which one you want.
The solos, exactly. This one is the only one that allows you to build a hut wherever you want, and then it's walk wherever you want, and then choose one resource of your choice, or choose a resource or walk. This is get gems and get victory points, and this is get apples and then get some other type of resource too. So you're really thinking about how the cards and actually these symbols do matter, especially if you're collecting these blue cards and then also trying to get into one of these end game scorings that happen if you get at least 5 of a particular type of one of the symbols in the upper right corner. And I think, you do that 3 times and you've got the game. Mm-hmm. This is where I always ask. So what do you think, Honey Bunch?
I think it's amazing.
I think it's really good.
It's a very fun game.
Yeah.
It's fast-paced, but it's some good think. But it's really just very straightforward. So it's very easy to pick up
That's the word that I would say. Very
Yeah.
straightforward. It's very clear. It is, a half step up from a family style game per se.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think gamers are going to like this one, which is why it was
yes.
on a number of people's top 10s of last year. This is the first chance we got to play it, but it was on a number of people's 2024 top 10s. And I think it's very inventive, that idea of, drawing from the bag to limit the choices that you have for the cards over here. And then placing those tokens that you've used to take cards to then gather more resources and make those decisions. So you have these two interesting decision points as you're going forward. And then, as you figure out and start collecting those cards, your previous choices really can determine in some ways what you're going to go for next, right? So, maybe you're like, wow, I'm getting a lot of... Shelley was really good about moving on that forest track and getting her
that was fun.
her huts out on the forest track. So she would be like, okay, how can I make sure that I move on that forest track? So she's over there making sure that she's getting those pink cards, right? But she's also paying attention to the symbols that are at the top so that she can maybe get the beast symbol so that those pink cards now are going to pay off if she gets 5 of those and, for endgame scoring. So I like that interplay of the two different ways in which you are gathering your resources and doing stuff.
Right. I mean, I think when you're trying to figure out, should I pull something from the bag or should I use the one that's already there?
Right, yeah.
Because you're thinking, well, I know what's in the bag.
Right, as it gets down, you know what's going to be in there.
You know what's in there, but it doesn't mean you're going to grab the thing you want, but you could get the thing that's already here. So if you take from the middle of the map, then you're leaving those other ones for the other person, right? For them to pull out.
That's true.
So I think that's a very interesting part of the game.
Yeah, and you get down to those 4 in the bag, and you're like, oh, I got 2 of those are what I would really love to see. Either one, right? And then you pull it out and see the other 2. And you're like, ah!
Right.
So there is that little bit luck in the game, but I like that because you're making the best of it, and it's not, huge decision tree that becomes problematic.
Right.
And I like the little paths, and I will say that the designer, Meng Chunlin,
really beautiful.
Also did all of the art. So
it's very artistic.
It's really a labor of love, and I think it really comes through in the game.
For sure.
So again, this is Explorers of Navoria. Yes, by Meng Chunlin. It is from Dranda Games, and for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 plus, and about 20 minutes per player. Definitely something that with 2 players you're going to fit in under an hour. All right, that'll do it for this week, guys. Remember, head down to the show notes, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe. Those are all good things, as well as check out the extensive list of games that no longer fit on our shelves, but belong on your table. Have a great week, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Bye.